Atlanta is a very worn out racetrack, so the best thing to do at Atlanta is get into the corners easy, use a little bit of partial throttle through the corners to gain as much speed as you can to keep the car on the bottom of the racetrack so that you can get the throttle back down as soon as you can to get it back up onto the straightaway.
To make the perfect lap around Auto Club Speedway, you want to make sure you have optimum speed down the front straightaway getting off into turn one. Roll out of the gas nice and smooth, turn off, get a real nice arc getting down towards the bottom of the corner, get down to the white line and be able to gas up early, get a good strong exit for the long straightaway that you have for the backstretch. As you go down the backstretch, there's a few bumps there, you want to stay out next to the wall. As you get down into turn three again, you want to arc out real nice and smooth, get it down to the bottom. You don't want to get there too soon, otherwise you'll push. You don't want to get there too late, otherwise you'll miss the bottom. And you want to be able to get a good, real strong shot up off the corner back towards the start-finish line.
Bristol's one of those tracks you start finish line, you get off into one, boy, you're carrying a tremendous amount of speed and she's going left in a hurry. Car slamming that thing down into the bank, you can hear just mashing on the gas as hard as you can and right back down, ripping down the back straightaway. Get into three, the car wants to get loose. You know, again, you got to have it that way a little bit because you need it to be free in the center so the car can rotate and you can get that throttle down and beat that car in front of you to the throttle because that's how you're going to pass at Bristol.
That's one of my favorite road courses. A lot of elevation changes. You'll go down into turn one, and it's a sweeping right-hander, you're kind of going downhill, and then you don't have a lot of room on exit. And then turn two, you kind of crest the hill, and your truck gets really light, and then it really compresses. And then you have the backstretch, another pretty hard right-hander with a big curb that we're trying not to hit. And then down into 5A and 5B, that's really tight. You're heavy on the brakes there. That's probably the heaviest braking point you'll have there. So really tight, slow, kind of double right. And then you have a long back straightaway. You have a really technical section, a lot of rhythm with that right when you go under the bridge braking, and then you have a left that you skip down in the second, and then the right-hander turns you onto the front stretch, which there's grass on the runoff, so you can't really run off that well. So yeah, I think that's a decent lap around motorsport.
Well, the perfect lap around Charlotte would start with your entry to turn one. It's about making the biggest arc that you can, so turning into the corner as late as you can and still get to the white line. Through the middle, you want to be as low as you can right on the white line. The exit just kind of happens. The entry to three is similar to one, except for you can't drive in quite as hard, but it's all about making the biggest, latest entry, getting to the bottom, and exiting as low as possible.
Perfect lap around Chicagoland, I'd say, would be a lot of throttle on time, making sure your car's turning great, getting down and hugging the line in turns 1 and 2, and trying to make a big wide arc in each corner. That's the biggest keys to getting around Chicagoland. Keeping your momentum up will get you around that place pretty fast.
Darlington, you know, it's about getting into turn one and barely grazing the brake and getting right back to the throttle, and you climb up the hill, but you're already hard in the throttle, so you're really hoping that you don't run out of room when it comes to getting up to the wall. And then it's about turning in at the perfect spot for turn two at Darlington, because if you turn in too late, there's a little hump, and I actually have spun and crashed the car there in practice. And if you turn in too early, you may hit the apron and it might make you loose. You might hit the apron and get tight because you have too much turning to do once you get to the center of the corner, hoping you don't run out of room on the exit because it's a pretty narrow exit. Turn three, you can really drive into the corner really deep, but you are going to slide up, and you're again using all the room you can on exit there. And then turn four is on the bottom or even over the apron on the inside lane for the first lap or so when the car is turning. But you know, at some point in the race, you usually run up by the wall a little bit too. So At this point in time, if it's ideal, I'm running the bottom and I barely lift, I'm right back to the throttle, and you're super happy because the car is actually turning, which at Darlington doesn't last long. You get tight very quick there.
All right, guys, I'm gonna help you drive the perfect lap around Daytona. Basically, if you're in qualifying mode or practice mode, you're gonna get on that bottom yellow line and you're gonna stick to it all the way around the racetrack. Now, if you're in a race position, then drafting is gonna be a little bit more complicated, and you're gonna have to just hold your line the best you can. If you're in the pack, if you're leading the pack, then basically down the straightaway, you wanna be breaking the draft. You wanna be moving kind of side to side, and in the corner, you're gonna go wherever they are behind you, and then moving down to kind of get a run down the hill. So it's really gonna be dictated by what the cars around you are doing in race. But in practice, in qualifying, the shortest way around the racetrack is the fastest.
One of my favorite racetracks is Dover, the Monster Mile, and so to run a perfect lap around there is really about getting the car to set down in the concrete. So you really drive the car into the corner very aggressively. You let off the gas, a little brake to get the car to settle down, and then once you do, man, you can just hammer right back to the gas, and that high banking and concrete surface gives the car so much grip, and you can just get a really big run off the corners and accelerate down the straightaways. So that's a really fun racetrack, and if you listen to my advice, let off getting in the corner, make the car settle down getting in, and then hammer the gas down and really try and concentrate on accelerating on the exits.
The goal to get around Eldora is to be able to enter turn one as high as you can without hitting the wall, and being able to continue that arc right next to the wall, exiting turn two without getting into the backstretch because it comes back out at you. Then getting into three is another place you want to be as high as you can without hitting the wall, and then you're able to turn down just a little bit and exit in the middle of four, and then that's a lap around Eldora.
Make the perfect lap around Gateway, I'd say find the exact right braking point going into turn one. It's going to be really heavy braking. Have to stay around the bottom all the way around through 1 and 2. And then going into 3, I'd say it's a pretty sketchy corner. You're going to be a little bit probably loose going in there. And you just want to try and keep it on the bottom as best you can. Maybe use the rumble strips a little bit and trying to keep your momentum up around the whole track.
To make the perfect lap around Homestead, typically it's usually around the top of the racetrack. To do that, you have to let off a little bit earlier and get to the gas a little bit sooner. So before the apex of the corner, the very center of it, you've got to be squeezing back in the throttle and using the wheel to run right around the outside wall. Typically, that'll be your fastest way around Homestead. Just do it without making any mistakes.
Perfect lap around Indianapolis. Don't brake as late as you think. Brake a little bit earlier, but as soon as you get down to the apex, you have to be feeding the throttle, if not getting the wide open. The same goes for all 4 corners. There's more grip in turns 3 and 4 than in 1 and 2. But just make your exit of turn 2 and your exit of turn 4 as long as possible, and just make sure you're getting the gas early.
Iowa Raceway, one of my favorite tracks, run there 3 times. A couple things that stick out about Iowa. Big bump in the middle of the racetrack. You have to really be disciplined. Also get really loose off of turn 2. Short lap around this track, but you got to be able to use all the grooves, especially turn 3. But you're going to enter way up high and turn down to the bottom. Try to get down as low as you can to the white line As you drive up off the corner, the track gets very narrow. It throws you right to the wall. Have to be careful not to hit the wall off of turn 4. And that's the lap around Iowa.
To make a really good lap around Kansas Speedway, you got to be committed to the throttle. You're going to go into turn 1, lift off the throttle, not all the way, probably halfway. You're going to touch the brake just a little bit to set the front nose, and once the car starts turning, you want to go back wide open as soon as you can. When you track out to the wall down the back straightaway, you're going to go down into turn 3. I like to lift a little bit earlier for turn 3. It's kind of flat. Maybe use a little bit more brake than turns 1 and 2. Get it all the way to the bottom, and then, like I said, in turns 1 and 2, you want to get back to the gas as soon as possible. Let it track all the way out to the wall. If you're qualifying, you can turn it down across the apron and shortcut the straightaway.
So Kentucky, all about momentum and making the corner as wide as possible. So you want to go into the corner with a nice big arc into turn 1 and try to get to the bottom. Keep the momentum as much as you can by keeping the corner long and have a nice arc on exit. Into turn 3, you can't quite arc the corner as much because there's no banking. So you got to have a little bit shallower entry, but the exit at turn 4 opens up a lot and the banking grows as well. So you're able to maybe charge the exit a little bit harder than you would in 1 and 2. And then you head down the front straightaway and make it as straight as you can.
All right, the perfect lap at Las Vegas. You're going to come across the start-finish line. You're going to start swinging it wide, and you're going to enter turn 1 and try to stay about 6-7 feet off the bottom. Try to miss the bumps a little bit. Run through there with a lot of throttle. And then when you get down to turn 3, make sure you get slowed up early and you don't miss the entry. You want to make sure you get it down to the white line in turn 3. Try to slow up real early for the corner and get in the gas really early to get off at turn 4 and bring it back to the start-finish line.
Perfect lap around Martinsville. They don't happen often, but when you get it, you know you got it. It's usually a very late braking into the corner. You're probably thinking too late, too deep, you're going to miss the turn. Pile the steering wheel to it, and the front end just bites and turns. And then when you go back to the throttle, you don't have to tiptoe slowly back to wide open with all the horsepower we have. You can just stomp on the gas, and you can feel the car finish rotating, transfer the weight to the rear tires, and drive up onto the straightaway. It's easy to get one end of the track right. It's hard to get both. It's just such a tricky little place. But if you can have it happen at 1 and 2 and at 3 and 4, you've hit the perfect lap.
The perfect lap around Michigan will be very simple. You have to try to get into a corner as smooth as possible, or trying to get back to the throttle as soon as possible. That is going to be the key. You have to make the straightaway as long as possible to carry as much speed as possible from the center of the corner to entry of the next corner. Michigan is a big racetrack, so as much speed as you can carry in those big straightaways is going to be much better.
For a great lap around Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the main thing you want to focus on is turn 2. So you go through turn 1, try and get a good run, hard braking into turn 2 and getting around that full corner. And when you get down, the biggest objective is get off that corner and have a solid run all the way down to turn 4, that right-hander there. That's where your speed is gained or lost. Getting into turn 4, it's very heavy braking. You want to stay to the right, and that way you can get back to the left of the racetrack for turn 5. It comes over that crest. Make sure you keep it at least center to left when you get through that right-hander. Definitely want to keep it hard right getting through there so that you can get over turn 7, another crest, very hard to get power down, but you want to make sure that you're pointed and straight before coming over that hill. Getting down into the back side of the racetrack there, it's
Turn 8 to the right. Turn 9 is another crest, very difficult to get power down. You'll be able to get over the hill about half throttle, hopefully, but once it lands, that's where you really put power down. You get into the corner, to the next left-hander coming up, you want to stay right against the guardrail. The left-hander is almost a blind corner. You lose sight of the racetrack as you come through there, but you do not have to worry about going back out to the left for the carousel right there. You just drive in, basically aim straight for the curb on the inside of the racetrack, and then you can let it wash out in the middle and try and get a very straight run all the way to the start-finish line.
Favorite racetrack's New Hampshire. You know, it's really long straightaways, pretty tight corners, mile-long track. When you enter into turn 1, you're heavy on the brakes, trying to get the car slowed down. There's a transition between the two lines, so you try and straddle the two different bankings in the corner. On the exit of the corner, you just try and keep the car tugged down to the bottom and try and pick up the gas smoothly. Then kind of the same thing as you go into turn 3, but there's a lot of pretty big bumps as you go into there, so the car wants to kind of slide across those. Once you get past that, then you just straddle the two lines again, a little bit higher than turns 1 and 2, and then the exit of turn 4, the wall comes up really fast, and there's actually a break between the safer barrier and the actual wall, so it's kind of an interesting transition there, but that's pretty much a complete lap.
Coming down the front stretch at Phoenix, you have to drive, you get some cones, 3, 2, 1 cones on the wall. Usually try to get just about to the 2 and a lot of brake initially. As you're under braking, you start to turn in. If it's turning really well, you can basically touch the apron and run kind of straight across the bottom of the racetrack in 1 and 2. Down the back stretch, stay right above the white line down the back stretch. And then when you go into turn 3, probably lift closer to the 3 cone rather than the 2. Lift a little earlier there, but get off the brakes sooner there to be wide open as soon as you can and back to the front straightaway.
Perfect lap around Pocono is a tricky one. Turn 1, you got to hit the entry right, you got to get your entry speed right down to the apex, shift down to 3rd gear, and try to exit that turn as fast as possible because it's a very long straightaway coming up. Tunnel turn, very tricky also. A very short turn, but your apex, and you need to be in the gas at the apex, wide open if possible. So getting those angles right is very difficult. And then turn 3, very long sweeping turn. The best bet there is to try to enter lower speed or back your entry up a little bit. Make sure you get the car all the way to the bottom of the track and try to get in the gas as early as possible. Exit turn 3 and carry as much speed as you can down the front stretch.
To get around Richmond the best, you obviously want to run the bottom groove, entering turn 1, get down to the line, run tight as you can around the apron. Forward bite's going to be a little bit tough off of turn 2, so getting into the gas, you got to be able to get in there hard and clean without spinning the tires. Get to the apron in turn 3 as quick as you can and seal that car off around the apron for the exit. And the same thing off turn 4. Forward bite is going to be critical, so getting to the gas as hard as you can without spinning the tires is important to get to the finish line.
All right, guys, we're here at Road America, one of the longest racetrack that we race at in the series. So what you do, you come in this long straightaway, and you're coming by the start-finish line. You should be shifting into 4th gear. And you're going in the straightaway, and about time the pit road wall ends on the right, you need to start looking for the brakes, guys. It's getting on the brakes or braking hard, braking straight. You got to downshift the 3rd and then the 2nd gear and make a really good turn right there. Don't get too far to the bottom. There's rumple strips there. It's very slick off that corner. You go 2nd to 3rd, go down the hill, back to 2nd gear. You want to get a really good run through turn 2 because it's one of the longest straightaways on the whole track. So get a really good launch off that corner, third, fourth gear, all the way down to turn 5, man, a hairpin. And this is heavy braking. When you start seeing that 600 and 500 number on the right, braking downhill, man, get on the brakes hard. I mean, you almost come to a complete stop. Get the car turned, go up the hill. We're going back, we go all the way to first gear in that corner. Then we're going back to second gear for top of the hill. Very hard, a very easy corner to overdrive. So make sure not to overdrive 6, make a good turn, get it really set up for 7. That's a very fast corner in third gear. You can make up a lot of time there. As soon as you get through turn 7, you're going down the hill again. It's a lot of downhill brakes at Road America. Get through turn 8 really good. We're going to go through the carousel and then the kink, guys. See how brave you are. Can you go through the kink wide open on the game? It's a lot of speed there. It's a long straightaway. Then you go in the Canada corner with a lot of heavy braking. One good thing about Road America, it's a lot of ups and downs. It's a lot of long straightaways, a lot of heavy braking. But the kink, guys, the kink, that's where you get your speed at.
Perfect lap around Sonoma. Nice. So your fourth gear from straightaway, lift a little early for that bend right by the wall. As you go up the hill, you downshift to third, downshift to second. You can actually gas it up a little bit going up the hill. Turn 2, stay tight to the curb. It's very tough to put power down on corner exit, but you drift all the way out to the left side, then bring it back all the way to the right to get ready for turn 3, the left-hander. Don't drive it in too deep because 3A at the top of the hill is more important. Get the car all the way to the left, stay left, and then cut hard over to the right. Don't touch that curb up at the top though, because you don't want to get on 2 wheels too far. And you want to get good power down as you come down the hill into turn 4. Hard on the brakes in turn 4. Don't touch that inside curb at the apex, but just jump over that curb on the exit of turn 4 and use all the racetrack right up by the wall. All this is second gear. Then you downshift into first gear for turn 7. In that corner, use a lot of the curb. You want to try to get the straightest exit that you can to go into the S's. I grab second gear and then a quick short shift to third through the S's. Left, right, over the turn hill of turn 9. Grabbing fourth gear, stay tight to that curb to the left. Downshift to third, and now you're going through turn 10, and that's the toughest corner on the racetrack. Focus on carrying the speed through this corner and drifting off the exit and just touch the curb on the latter part of the exit. Still in third gear, and hard onto the brakes. Down into turn 11, downshift into second, downshift into first. Don't turn in too early, but get onto those tires. Hug those tires all the way around on the bottom. Accelerate hard, first, second, third, fourth, all the way around the bend to the start-finish line.
So Talladega, the biggest, the fastest, the meanest racetrack that we go to. One tip, go fast and don't lift. Talladega has a lot of banking, fast straightaways, and so you don't have to lift going into the corners like you do at other racetracks. So hold the pedal to the metal, keep your eyes open. You need to pay attention to what's in front of you, but don't lift and you'll run a good lap at Talladega.
To make the perfect lap around Texas Motor Speedway, you have to be super smooth because it's a very fast racetrack. Arc the car into the corner without getting too high or too low so that you keep the wheel at a constant position all the way through the corner. Basically focus on getting off the corner and carrying as much power throttle and throttle as you can throughout the entire lap. Turn 4 is a little bit tricky. The car tends to get a little bit loose and the wall comes up pretty quick, so watch out for that.
Watkins Glen, you go down the front straightaway. The corner's real tough because as you go down the into turn 1, it kind of falls down a hill, so it's easy to lock the brakes up or get in too hard. And you kind of get into the bowl section of turn 1, come off turn 1, you short shift to third, go up through the S's. The S's, especially in qualifying, are about wide open, and there's really no room for error. So a real challenging part of the racetrack. Come out of there, you grab fourth as you're kind of going through the kink onto the back straightaway. The bus stop's a really tough corner, so kind of get down to the 6 or 7 marker, hit the brakes, get down to second gear, bang over the curbs, right, right, go through the carousel, still running second gear, grab third as you come out of the carousel as quick as possible, run all the way down the back straightaway, same deal, depending on your gear shift. You can stay in third or go up to fourth, brake around the 3 marker. It's a quick left-hander that kind of falls off cambers, so the car tends to slide there, and run over the exit curbing, and the last corner is a quick brake, turn, and back to throttle down through the last section of the corner and hit the bowl and come off the last corner, and you're back on the start-finish line now.